All right, this is the video for properly disassembling and reassembling an Equilibar FDO4 valve. Starting from my left, you will need a M4 driver, a NISD calibrated torque wrench, properly spanned for 30 inch-pounds of torque, your Equilibar FDO4 valve removed from its system, and a M4 Allen wrench. For disassembly, take your M4 Allen wrench and break the torque on all 4 socket head screws here. Once the torque is broken, simply unscrew the 4 bolts by hand. The disassembly procedure here, the pattern does not matter, but it is very crucial for assembly. Once all 4 screws are unscrewed, remove the reference cap, the body, and go ahead and separate and discard the no longer useful diaphragms. Okay, before we begin torquing, we will discuss alignment. The bolt pattern on the FDO4 is what's called a rectilinear pattern, meaning in any 90-degree rotation, the bolts will align. So the bottom cap and reference cap can be aligned in any 90-degree orientation. Additionally, the diaphragm follows that same rule, any 90-degree rotation. Additionally, any side can contact the valve. It's omnidirectional. So, however, for aesthetics purposes, we instruct our assembly technicians to assemble the valve as follows. On the bottom cap, we'll take the lot number and face this south. So it will face just like so. We'll take our diaphragm, any side will do, orient the tab pointing north, and align it with the bolt holes. We'll take the regulator body. This large cutout here is the inlet arc, which is the inlet side of the valve, also denoted by this lasered eye. There's an O for an outlet and a flow arrow to indicate flow direction. We instruct them to install the valve on the left, the inlet on the left, and align that with the bottom cap. We'll take our diaphragm, again, tab pointing north, place that on top. And finally, our reference cap will have the lot numbered facing north. For bolt preparation, from the factory, we take DuPont Krytox bolt lubricant and put a very small dab on the leading thread of each bolt to prevent stainless on stainless galling. However, if the valve has not been externally cleaned and that lubricant not stripped from the bolt, these bolts should be adequate and primed and ready to reassemble the FDO4 without galling. Now that the Equilibar FDO4 is dry stacked and ready to assemble, we're going to take our M5 bolt and loosely, without excessive force, use the bolt to align the pieces together and very loosely hand tight the threads to get them started. We'll do that with all 4 of these valves, or these bolts here. And then what we'll do is, just using very light torquing from your fingers, go ahead and get everything contact tight only. So as soon as you begin to feel some resistance, stop torquing. And once all 4 of these bolts are contacting, what you'll now do is check for parallelism. So you'll hold it up to your eye and make sure that primarily what you don't want to see is one of these caps askew relative to the body, which would indicate some kind of stoppage or hold up or some kind of resistance preventing things from seating properly. Okay, now that the bolts are very loosely tightened, it's time for torquing. However, ideally, this would be done with a set of soft jaws and a vise. The valve would be held to firmly be, secured for torquing. But if this has to be done in the field and no vise is available, an alternative is to use very short fittings and attach them to the valve to give you a little bit longer handle to resist that moment when you torque. Okay, now this is ready for torquing. Again, ideally this would be in a soft jaws, but if it's in the field, we have it prepared with these fittings for security. So the torquing pattern is as follows. Typically we start with the top left and we'll go into X patterns. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, and we'll torque these in a starting, these bolts are finger tight already. What we're going to go ahead and do first is torque them to 15 inch-pounds, the halfway point between the ultimate desired torque of 30 inch-pounds. So we'll go ahead and torque this to 15. Now that this bolt is done, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next one. Again, 15. There's 15. And the fourth one at 15. Okay, now the next step is to go ahead and torque it to 30. So I'm again starting with the top left, take it up to 30. Okay, one, and the second one there, 30, and the third one up to 30, and the fourth one. Oh, didn't get that seated properly. Up to 30. Okay, so now that we've done torque at 30, we need to do a final pass. So we're gonna go ahead and just verify torquing. Okay, so this one's again verified for 30. All right, torque to 30. Bam, that's at 30. And the fourth one is at 30. Okay, so now that these have been torqued to 30 and checked at 30, this completes the torquing step. Okay, this concludes the torquing procedure. The final step before installation in your system is to check for parallelism again, just as a final check. During this step, you're not looking for the difference of 1 or 2 thousandths of an inch. You will see a appreciable, 10 or 20 thousandths of an inch skewness if it were improper. This looks great. So now the last step is to remove these temporary fittings and install back into service.